first of all, am I in trouble if I do that?
As of July 1st, there certainly is, Ken, a new legislation with regulations that come into effect called the Canadian Anti-Spam Law. And in a nutshell, in a really brief nutshell, you can be in trouble if you do violate some of these new regulations that Industry Canada and CRTC are putting forth.
Okay, so as a business owner, small or large, what do I need to keep in mind then?
Okay. What I've done for everybody previous to this call, Canada, came up with 7 quick tips, and feel free to drill down on any of these as we go along. I want to be helpful here for everybody.
Yep.
First of all, so this big July 1st thing, here's what there is to know. As of July 1, you can't send somebody a commercial electronic message, i.e. an email with like a business purpose, to someone unless it meets certain exemptions, like it's a personal relationship or you have an ongoing business relationship, so you're doing business with them right now. Or you can't send that same commercial electronic message to someone after tomorrow if you don't have express or implied consent from that person.
Okay.
Now let me unpack that a little bit, because the express and implied consent I know will bring up some questions.
Yeah.
Express consent is when somebody affirmatively takes an action to be on your list. So let's say they signed up for your web forms and they check a little box and they say, yes, Ken, send me emails on whatever it is that you want to send me emails on regarding your business. I'm good with that. That's express consent.
Okay.
Implied consent. There's a little more wiggle room here for businesses. Implied consent is any past customers of yours or anybody who's inquired about your products or services. That's implied consent. So back to number 1. You can't send somebody a commercial electronic message as of tomorrow if you don't have express consent. So they haven't told you they wanted to be on your list.
Right.
Implied consent, they're not a past customer or past lead, or they don't meet an exemption, like it's a personal relationship, like it's your dad or it's your sibling.
Okay.
Okay. That's number 1. Number 2, after July 1st, you can send commercial electronic messages to people that become past customers for 2 years. And then if they don't provide express consent in that two-year mark, then you need to remove them off your list after that 2-year mark. And the same applies for leads. So people inquire about your goods and services. You have 6 months unless you gain express consent or they become a customer. So there's an ongoing business relationship there.
Right.
That's number 2. So what that's saying is you have limitations in time on how long you can continue to send people CEMs for short, commercial electronic messages, after July 1st. Now, number 3, this is very important though, Industry Canada has granted a 3-year transition period. If you can prove to them that this is somebody who you have implied consent from in the past, and you've demonstrated a commercial electronic message to them. So if you meet those 2 criteria, you have 3 years for any of these recipients, if you will, that were on your list pre-July 1st.
Okay.
And I know that gets a little confusing.
It does. Okay, let me just back up a little bit here. Andrew Schiesel, president of TBK Creative. We're talking about the Canadian Anti-Spam Law, and you talked about implied consent or
Sure.
actually giving consent. And I've noticed a lot of businesses who are actually disregarding even the implied consent. Say, for example, I've been receiving a mail or an email newsletter from a company. I'm probably in the last week have received another message saying, do you consent to continue receiving this? So they're even going out of their way to make sure that they've taken care of that aspect of it as well. Should I be doing that?
What they're trying to do, is they're trying to have recipients press a button to provide express consent, because if somebody provides express consent, there's no time limit any longer on how long you can send them correspondence unless they unsubscribe. That's the main purpose for these dozens of pre-July 1 emails that you're getting. If, as a small business, what you don't have to do right now is you don't necessarily have to do it for past customers or past leads because you already have implied consent. So you're going to be given, and if you've already been in correspondence with them already through a CEM, a commercial electronic message, you're given 3 years as of July 1st. So it's not that you shouldn't necessarily do the July 1 email. You can do it certainly if you want to be certainly safe. But you also don't have to delete your entire list come July 1st as well. You can keep certain people on the list.
Okay. My final question for you, obviously, we're not going to get through all 7 of your points, but
sure.
My final question for you is, this is the Canadian anti-spam law or legislation. Yes. So how does this relate to companies who do business outside of the country? Do I need to worry about the laws even though I'm communicating with people in Europe, in the U.S.?
You always do, technically. So kind of the rule of thumb there is if you are sending emails down to somebody in the U.S., you should, or in Europe, you should be abiding by their own territorial rules and regulations, just like if somebody's in Europe emailing somebody in Canada, they're technically falling under the Canadian anti-spam law. Whether in in that latter case there, whether the Canadian government enforces it with somebody outside of Canada is a different story. But if so, to your question, Ken, it's not that you have to follow the Canadian anti-spam law when emailing somebody in the U.S. or Europe. You need to follow their laws.
Okay, that makes sense. Andrew, I appreciate this. It makes it a little bit clearer. I think my best course of action is probably just to call Andrew at TBK Creative and say, look, you handle this for me. Am I right?
Well, it's a service we offer.
Absolutely. Andrew Schiestel, thank you so much for this.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Ken. It was great.
Andrew Schiestel is president of TBK Creative, and it does. It really does sound confusing and difficult to follow in many respects, the Canadian anti-spam law. But what it comes down to is maybe it's time to start picking up the phone when you're sourcing out prospective clients. Hey, I can't send an email anymore. I did have an interesting thought, though, as I was checking the mail this morning and pulling out many unsolicited letters that I received, and thought to myself, I wonder if this flyer that I received is a violation of the Canadian anti-spam legislation, because I didn't ask for it. I'm not not a former customer, so there's no implied consent, definitely no express consent. So it's an interesting thought. When we come back, we're still taking care of your Canada Day plans. Plus, have you ever had a or what is, I should say, because everybody's had one, but what is your quintessentially Canadian moment? 519, I've suddenly forgot the phone number, Nick. 519-643-1290. I don't say it enough. 519-643-1290 if you have a quintessentially Canadian moment, and I defy you to outdo mine. That's coming up. First, going to take a look at traffic and weather.
York near Richmond had a collision a little while ago, but things may still be going slow there. So keep an eye out for that area. We're also going to pass along once again Quebec Street at Queens. That whole area was closed down earlier today due to a police investigation that was going on. It is no longer going on, so you can go through there and go on with your day. If you see anything else, let us know at 519-643-1290. I say it too much. That's my problem. I say it all the time. But you can also go to our Twitter, and that's at CJBK.
519-643-1290.
519-643-1290.
I'll get it. We've still got a very muggy day for you today, and probably not a very comfortable sleep with the windows open tonight. Down to 21 degrees, still very humid. Clouds moving in. By the time you get up tomorrow morning, a good chance of some showers, maybe even a thunderstorm. The high up to 27 degrees. The good news is we are expecting things to clear out by the time we get you out to some of those events we've been talking about for Canada Day evening, with clearing skies and a low down to about 18 degrees on Tuesday night. 28 with the Humidex, feels like 37. We come back with your quintessentially Canadian moment on London in the afternoon on News Talk 1290 CJBK.